What's up, guys, and welcome back to Sensibly Loud Radio. It's your main man, J-Mac, here on this beautiful Wednesday evening here at Sensibly Loud HQ in Dallas, Texas. I am surrounded in the studio right here by B-Eazy and MtnKarl. What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, what's going on?
Good to be back, boys.
That's right.
Another week and in the trenches. Feels like it's been a long one this time. Sucks. But we're getting along here at the office. How are you guys doing?
Doing real good. We had a little bit of Twitch action. What is that called? What are you called when you Twitch? Are you a Twitcher? Is that a normal thing to be called when you go on Twitch and you play video games? Or I don't know. I don't know what the official answer is for that.
Brandon, do you know?
Sure. I guess you just call it a Twitcher, or maybe you have a condition and you're twitchy.
Ooh.
That's true. Yeah, twitchy. Not bad.
Both could be happening there too. That's a good point.
Yes.
No, we jumped on our Twitch stream, so Sensibly Loud is the actual name of it out there. So check it out. MtnKarl and I have been doing a bunch of talking. We talked about OJ this past week, which was an absolute blast.
Yeah, that was super fun. Talked about OJ, talked about what makes a any kind of sports player a hero, or what makes him kind of an actual like a good person to look up to.
A role model.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Do you want me to give you a little bit of follow-up real quick? Because I've been communicating with the scumbag attorney of OJ Simpson.
Oh, you have?
I have. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what is his what is his take? Enlighten us.
So I'll give a little bit of backstory here real quick, because we haven't talked about it on radio, and I don't think Brandon knows much about this yet. Essentially, there's a new podcast out called Confronting OJ, and the podcast is by Kim Goldman, who was the sister of the guy that was killed next to Cole Brown by OJ. And so they're really talking to a lot of the attorneys, and like they talked to Marcia Clark, they talk to all these people that were involved with the case, and just talk kind of about like what went wrong and what happened and how we kind of got there. And it's interesting coming from the family's point of view. And of course, so the other day they had OJ's lawyer on to talk a little bit about his stance on things, which, I mean, what stance can you really have? But that's a whole other conversation. And he took the stance that Kim Goldman, who's doing this podcast, is a piece of shit, who's looking for nothing but money and is just nothing but a money grubbing bitch, basically. And like literally calling her these things on this. And I was like, this guy's a fucking asshole. Like immediately, like this guy was basically just slandering these people, saying that they need to just let it go. And it's like, your client slaughtered her brother. Like, I don't really know what you want here. I mean, is that so far off base?
No, sounds pretty right so far. So what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
Yeah, so basically I kind of chirped at him a little bit and was like, look, man, like I basically laid out, I was like, you're a coward by going out and basically saying that these victims are, a bunch of slanderous assholes to your client, when he's out there making videos of himself talking about weird shit on the golf course. Like, it goes both ways, right? And so I kind of laid that out, and we kind of bantered back and forth. And it's really weird. His name is Malcolm, and he like every tweet that he does, he signs it like, so he'll say like his thought and then sign it with an M at the end of it, like Malcolm. And I started looking into his Twitter account just a little bit, and he has all these followers, quote unquote, that follow him, that tweet at him and stuff. And they look like burner accounts, and they all finish a tweet with the letter of the name that they have in the profile.
That's like a really, really shitty mystery that needs to be solved.
I don't think it's a mystery. I think those are burner accounts that he's created. He thinks that he's smarter than everybody is what happens here. So anyway, I reached out to this guy and was like, hey, I want to have you on my show. I want to talk to you. I want to confront OJ's lawyer, right? Confronting OJ. That's what we're doing.
Sure.
Confront his lawyer. And this guy, I mean, he's been responding to everybody on Twitter. So I kind of had a feeling he would respond to me. So we went back and forth, and I basically he was like, well, what's your stance on this? And I was like, I kind of think you're a scumbag, but like, I'm willing to give anybody a chance to speak. I want to talk to you. And he didn't really want to engage in that. And he kind of went back and forth and started asking about how many Twitter followers he could get and all this. And I just ended the conversation.
Right.
Not playing those games.
The not so humble brag.
I don't want to have him on this show that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially if he's going to just be waving his dick all over the place and not actually answer any questions.
Yeah. So that kind of escalated the night we were on the Twitch stream and talking about OJ and all that. So that's kind of where that ended up, but we're not doing it. I'm not playing games with this guy.
Yeah. You were coming in hot. And one of the ideas you had after we cooled off, was a restaurant concept.
Yes.
So you were, so Brandon, Justin was talking to me on the Twitch stream, and he gives me this spiel, right? He goes and he talks about how he wants to have this restaurant where it's called like Nana's or like Grandma's Place or something. And it's where grandmas basically do it's a home cooking restaurant. I was like, that's kind of, everybody does home cooking. He says, no, I want actual grandmas to do the home cooking, like only grandmas. So you've got like the Southern grandma doing like the cornbread stuffing, and you've got like, I don't know, but anyway,
you've got all types of grandmas. You've got an Italian grandma, you've got, a black grandma, you've got everybody. You can get any kind of food you want because everybody knows that grandmas make the best food. Is that right or wrong?
No, I mean, I'm with you on the concept, but what I was getting at was after you gave me like a 30-minute hard spiel, what came out of your mouth was, what the biggest problem with this restaurant is? The turnover. I said, motherfucker, did you just give me 30-minute pitch about a restaurant so that you can make you can drop a joke about dead grandmas? Like, that's your punchline right now.
Yep, he would do it.
It's so funny that you think that I would do that. I mean, I get why. I 100% get it. But
I was sitting there like in silence. I was just like, is this really happening right now? I mean, I believe you if you say it was unintentional, but I'm sorry. That was fantastic.
Well, I thought of it because I knew it would be funny, but I wasn't like setting the whole thing up for that.
Okay, that's fair enough. I was holding on. I was just kind of like, I cannot believe that just happened.
Hey,
like,
no ageism here.
No. We were actually, I mean, hell, of course not. But,
I mean, who would set something like that up to the max would be Ben Baseball. Now that's something he would do.
He can do the long setup without problems.
He was telling some story on The Outfielder the other day about how he inadvertently blew up a group date, or not. That wasn't it. It was like he inadvertently came up on a date and the date went really terribly. And he his addition to the date didn't really help. Something like that. I'm not really sure. We'll have to get him to talk about it in Colorado. But we were talking about that, and he told this like long ass story. And I was like, is he setting me up just like you thought I was doing to you with the grandma's, restaurant thing? I literally thought he was doing the same thing. And I told him that on the show. I was like, I thought you were doing the same thing to me right now. So he's definitely the type that would do that.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, just from listening to The Outfielder, I get that impression. So
is it a bad idea, this grandma's restaurant thing?
The grandma's restaurant, other than like the very real problem that you've already addressed facetiously, I would say that we've got a good idea. I mean, like it would have to be a very like, conceptual thing, right? Like you'd have to have kind of like, have people do like the farm to table kind of thing. This would be like grandma's very specific menu that she creates like the day of, that kind of deal. So yeah.
And like if you think about it, like you've got to have a rigorous interview process. You can't just let any old grandma in. Like my grandma was a great cook, but I know that not all grandmas are. And I mean, I think if you're the grandma and you show up to the interview without food, you're automatically out.
Sure.
I mean,
I think that's fair because they need to be handing out samples to you immediately.
Right. I don't even want credit for this idea. I just want this idea to happen. Okay.
Yeah, I get that. During the screening process, do we care about like old crazy racism?
Oh yeah.
Probably so. Probably don't want to bring that into the mix. So we should probably screen that out.
Yeah, don't want to deter the customers. But if it's like you're talking like Southern cooking type thing, I feel like there should be more of that. Especially here. There's so many Tex-Mex restaurants and everything. It's like, the only Southern cooking type of restaurants I can think of are like, your usual. But as long as the recipes get handed down, then hey, you don't have to worry about the turnover.
Yeah, see, that's a good point. That's a great point. But like the other thing is you got to have a minimum age too here, right? Or is it's not an age thing necessarily. It can't be. The basic requirement is you have to be a grandmother.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I think you probably run afoul of the law as well. But I definitely am seeing the benefit of having the grandmother's only rule. So
if I've said it before, I've said it a million times. If Hooters can do it, we can do it.
Oh boy, that's what you want to say.
Oh no, I'm just kidding. No, actually not. But I'm just saying,
not at all.
I think that they need to be a grandmother though. Like I think it's on the sign. It's a basic requirement, right?
Yeah, I mean it's an entire concept, and obviously you need their children and their children's children to actually taste test the food to make sure it doesn't suck beforehand. So
I'm rethinking this racism thing actually, because
we'll circle back. Okay, good.
The more that I think about it, because the thing is, you could just keep them in the back of the house.
All the crazy racist grandmas.
Yeah, we'll just keep them away from the customers, and they can just sort it out on their own. I mean, you'd have to have some sort of peacekeeper back there to make sure everybody gets along.
Yeah, so that's what you do. You differentiate your kitchen versus your waitresses or all that, the difference of the staff.
Yeah, I would go ahead and say this disclaimer right now that Sensibly Loud does not openly hire racists for the sake of talent.
No, we do not. And we do not keep them in the back of the house either to where nobody nor do we support any of this. It's a ridiculous thing.
It is a ridiculous concept. And we'll let someone else dive on that grenade when they create nanas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I also had an idea for like a service that brings you bananas, and you call it like Bo-nanas, and like it's maybe nanas that bring it. Like that's kind of an offshoot idea of the business.
Or perhaps a man named Bo.
Yeah, there you go.
I got nothing. This is an entire foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
Is it frozen? Frozen bananas or just any kind of bananas?
We can do that. Any type of bananas.
All right. Well, thanks for opening it up for me, man.
Yeah, we'll rip it more, I think.
Appreciate that. That seemed like a real olive branch.
No, it's okay. You're good. But yeah, so I mean, we kind of talked about it a few minutes ago, but we've got like how many days till Colorado? 7 days now. We leave a week from today.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
It's going to be a blast. We're going to be doing tons of content there. We're going to be doing some brewery reviews. We're going to be doing. We're going to go. I think we're going to go. I know we're going to the Rockies game on Saturday night, and we're going to try to go on Friday night as well. We're going to be sitting out in the bleacher seats, out in the rock pile, is what it's called, out in the very back. Worst seats in the house, is what I'm told.
I was going to say that sounds real comfortable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, and I think we may even try to make a cup snake. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for those who don't know what a cup snake is, it's nothing sexual. So
it's a little sexual. Look into it.
Is it okay? That's fine. Fair
Only
enough.
Let it be. Only
if you let it be is right. Yeah. So we'll be sitting on a rock pile. God, that sounds great for my back. And
yeah. I think we're going to try to make a trip maybe to a special location and record an episode of this show.
That'd be pretty cool.
Kind of Denver specific. I think we should tease that out there. So we've got a lot of things on the docket while we're there. And also we've got some guests and stuff coming and lots of interviews. I think we'll do lots of live streaming and stuff like that while we hash out the big issues like we tend to do.
Like madness.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be good. I'm very excited. This will be the first like big company trip.
It will. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think having everybody in the same creative space is going to be a real get. So
yeah,
agreed.
The inspiration and feng shui of that space.
Oh boy, the interview areas of that house are going to be incredible. I saw the pictures of this place yesterday, and it's going to be wild.
You can interview someone in the bathroom and look good.
We could all interview with a different microphone in the bathroom if we wanted to. There's so many bathrooms in this place.
That's true.
But I don't want to talk about that too much because I think we'll kind of I think we'll do some video and walk around and show everybody the house and, all that kind of thing.
Right.
Do a little before and after kind of thing, because God only knows. We'll figure it out. So people will get to see the weirdness, I think, is the bottom line. I think Ben is wanting to do the whole home run derby with fruit contest. So we can go get a baseball bat.
I was going to say, as far as the fruit's concerned, did we decide on a fruit cheaper than peaches to get in Denver?
Yeah, Sam's not going to fly him in from Georgia, I don't think.
No, I don't think that's a good move. Though you did recommend him buying a seat on his flight.
Yes, that was for an ideal solution.
Yeah, so seems good.
For sure. Well, more fun stuff to come with that. Can't wait. And we've been talking a lot about like different fun experiences we've had lately and stuff like that. And Brandon, you actually had one of the cooler experiences I've heard about in a while. This concert you went to last weekend was absolutely incredible. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so a friend of mine kind of surprised me end of last week and said, hey, I might have an opportunity to get a VIP pass and to go see Alice in Chains and Korn. They were coming in concert Sunday evening in Dallas over at the Dos Equis Pavilion. And it was like, do you want to go? I'm like, sure. I never pass up free. And especially I ended up finding out that, and we might have the potential of sitting FOH, which means front of house, which means sitting in the sound booth. And so I immediately was like, oh, shit. I nerded out immediately. And, it's like, yeah, let me know if that happens. And sure enough, it happened. Took a little bit to get in, getting up to the will call and the artist will call. There was a little bit of confusion there, but we ended up getting in right as Alice in Chains took stage. I think we only missed maybe one or two songs, but excellent set. Jerry Cantrell, amazing on vocals. They're really lucky to have him after the original lead singer, passed away and everything. So yeah, it was really amazing. Korn took the second set, and that's when we ended up sitting in the sound booth. Was really cool because I thought that, my friend just kind of knew someone who maybe worked in there and maybe it was like the assistant. No, they knew the main sound guy running the mix. So, he just kind of like waved security like, no, they're cool. Come on in. And so we got to stand like behind him as he was doing it. And I'm just looking at the board just like, oh man, I was just fascinated because everything had its own LED description of what it was. There was no guesswork. And then I also saw, the guy that was running the lights and what he was doing and how they work in tandem and they were just having fun. But yeah, it was great. Towards the end of the show, though, there was interesting thing that happened. So we were about to leave, and my friend and I were kind of trying to have a game plan in terms of, hey, let's go get a drink afterwards somewhere. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this lady walks up and bumps both of us out of the way, like splits us in between, and starts moving along. And I see this like large woman walk through us with a wooden cane that looks like it's made out of some, I don't know, some petrified wood. And is just walking through.
Wood?
Yeah. She's just walking through and she's like, I gotta get home. You gotta get out of the way. I gotta get home. And just keeps going and walking. She's like, I must get home. And we're just like, what in the hell? And so she hadn't looked like she had washed her hair in a very long time. And the more I started looking at her, I'm like, she kind of looks like she's a person of the hobbits. And I was like, oh, she's I said, oh, she's in a hurry to get back to the Shire to take care of her
Shire,
hobbits.
yeah.
So I don't know if she ever made it home, but that was pretty interesting. But of course, you have your typical weirdos that show up at some of those shows, and so that's always good for people watching. But for the most part, everybody was normal. You had a few people, get carried off in stretchers and taken to the hospital because they just can't get enough Molly, I guess. But yeah, it was one of the
Korn.
Yeah, was one of the cooler concert experiences I had. Was definitely humid and very warm that night, but man, I hope I get to do it again. And I ended up telling the guy that was doing the the sound mix about our show and everything. And he's like, "Oh man, we travel all the time. I'm trying to look for great podcasts." And so, I don't know. Hopefully, our paths will cross again. And I'd like to get him on for an interview. So we'll see what happens.
We would love that. That'd be incredible. I actually just tweeted out the pictures that you sent from the show out of the Twitter account. So everybody go and check it out. The soundboard is really well illustrated, and the lights of the actual show are awesome too. So
how much do we think a Uber is from Middle Earth? Like, where are we at on that?
Got to be pricey, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can't be cheap. So I think that, or like she takes the light rail, all the way to Middle Earth. So
yeah.
I
like it. So Brandon, what was Korn like?
So Korn was, I'm a bigger fan of Alice in Chains. I've always wanted to see him live, and yeah, they didn't disappoint. Korn, there was about like a 40-minute intermission in between. So once they took stage, they got a little bit more of the light show and everything, and more atmospheric. And seeing Jonathan Davis come out was pretty interesting. You could tell he's got a little bit of a dad bod going on, but hey, who doesn't,
Didn't he always?
Yeah, but, he's a little bit more pronounced, I would say now, just like the rest of us, right? So compared to our 20s. Sure. But yeah, about midway through the set, before he came out and did one of the major hits, he came out and had changed into a black kilt, walked out on stage with a bagpipe, and did the intro to one of his more famous songs. And
hell yeah.
Yeah,
that rocks.
But he rocked out. That was probably one of the busiest parking lots I've been to in a long time at that venue, and I've been to many concerts there. And he was very thankful of the fans that showed out, and yeah, you could tell the whole band was into it, which it's got to be brutal because I think it was like the night before or 2 nights before they were in the Woodlands, so you can imagine the humidity there. But
oh yeah,
oh wow,
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I've always loved Korn. Actually, I think the problem with their image, I guess, is that they tried to be so weird, and it kind of went with their like tone of music. Because Brandon and I've talked a lot about that in earlier episodes of the show about like specific tones and keys that we like in music. Like I'm a very big melodic E minor guy. Like I love those Egyptian sounds and stuff like that in a very bassy way on a guitar. I mean, it's like cranking it down 2 or 3 steps and really, really getting the meat of it. And so like everybody has those preferred tones and stuff like that. And theirs just always happened to be like a really Halloween-y weird. I mean, like Freak on a Leash was a weird song. It was a great song though.
For sure.
And all their albums I thought were really good. You just kind of have to look past the weirdness of it.
I mean,
and it's hard to do.
Well, and same could be said about like, and it's around the same, well, maybe a little bit around the same time. I didn't even know, I looked them up, that Korn's been around since 93.
Yeah, dude, they've been around a long time.
But kind of, along the same lines of like System of a Down, right? They have a lot of songs that are in a very weird tuning, and the lead singer is a very weird way of doing, so that there was a lot of really interesting music that came out of the 90s and early 2000s, such as that.
I really like that kind of feel to it, though. They came out around the time Limp Bizkit did, and that kind of, they like weirdly set themselves apart, but they were like balls deep in the middle of like the rap metal thing. And so that's, that was a weird time in music to begin with. So it's almost like they never really, it's like they gained the notoriety they deserve, but maybe not even as much as they should have, I feel like.
The rap metal thing is actually one of the first concerts that I dove into when I did, I was like in high school, 2003, right? We did Metallica, but then their support stuff at, it was Summer Sanitarium, and their support bands were Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Deftones, and Mudvayne.
What year was that?
2003.
Okay, that was like right when I moved here. I remember that happening. It was at Texas Stadium, right?
It was at Texas Stadium. Yeah, the Oven. So
the Oven, is that what it was nicknamed?
It was just, honest to God, like if you weren't getting cooked in there.
So it was just the Oven.
It was. No, like I remember it was one of those places where people would talk about it like it was hallowed ground, right? It's where the Cowboys played. And then you go to a game there and you're like, this place is fucking miserable. Like you've got,
it was a dump.
It's a dump. You've got like the sun coming straight through on, like into the field, like cooking everything. You got no wind to get, disperse that heat. So I remember I think I sweat through my t-shirt in about 5 seconds. Like I've never like been that hot in a concert in my entire life. And like, juxtapose that with like Muse, like 2 years later. And like it was an air conditioned venue, like much smaller and everything. But yeah, no, Texas Stadium was iconic, but also am fine that it's not around anymore.
I went to it when I was really little. I barely remember it, to be honest with you. It snowed though. So it was like probably like December time.
Right.
And so I don't really remember it being as miserable. I just remember it. I mean, it wasn't really even a dump at the time. Because I mean, this must have been like early 90s still. I mean, they were good. I wouldn't have been here unless they were good at that time. So like my dad wouldn't have taken me here. So I can't imagine that wasn't why.
Yeah, no, I mean, fall time and winter time over Texas Stadium, not that bad. Like the snow, that's pretty cool. You get to see it on the field and everything. It's open to the elements, but the heat, dude, that place lights up like a fire.
For sure. Did so I think we got off the rails a little bit, but yeah, the rap metal thing was a weird time in music and everything. And so that's awesome that they still kind of hold up as far as music goes. I like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like an awesome experience. What would you say your favorite concert you've been to, Brandon?
Oh man. There's so many for different reasons, but my favorite concert, I mean, I could easily name some Nine Inch Nails ones, like the first one I went to and met Trent Reznor at it in 2005. But to be honest, this last, most recent Dave Matthews Band concert I went to just really was something special in terms of the set list. They played a lot of rare stuff, but there was a really interesting moment about like 5 songs in where all of a sudden it stormed really, really heavily outside. And again, it was at Dos Equis Pavilion, so I was in the covered spot. And, it was just pouring down rain on people on the lawn. And at that point, the band was going to play something different that was on their set list. And they decided to call an audible. And so they played this song called JTR, which stands for John the Revelator. And the song, basically the chorus goes, rain down on me. And so when that song started, you just hear this roar of people because they were just like, that's awesome. They're playing one of the rarest songs, and they pulled it out of their belt for this moment, and it was just electric.
They had one in the chamber.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's an impressive feat to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
I would say mine is probably tied. I saw my very first concert I ever saw was Jackson Browne. Incredible.
Nice.
Incredible. Late for the Sky is one of my favorite albums of all time. We've talked about that. So he was incredible. Aside from that, I saw Blink-182 and Green Day whenever they were like on the on the come up, like Enema of the State type days. And like, This is like before American Idiot type Green Day, like when Green Day was still good, like Nimrod and all that, those albums and Dookie and all those before that. So like, that was really awesome. But I would say probably one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to was I saw Breaking Benjamin and Evans Blue one time together. And I mean, from start to finish, it was the most energy I've ever seen in like a small rock concert type venue. I mean, I walked out of there with my mind absolutely blown. I've never seen energy put into a show like that one before.
That's awesome.
Do you have any favorites, Carl?
Yeah, I think that despite getting like completely destroyed by the heat, that even though I've gone to a few concerts after that, the Summer Sanitarium sticks out to me as probably one of the better ones. Not necessarily because of the music and everything, but just the energy was so high. Like it was really awesome. Everybody all over the entire stadium was just losing their shit every single second of that entire performance. So, and at the time I was a huge Metallica fan, so it was a big deal for me to kind of throw my high school money into that. So it was a memorable experience. I'll go ahead and say that was probably my favorite one, even if it wasn't the highest quality music.
That's fair. I mean, the lineup is electric. That must have been like early Linkin Park too, right? Like their first album, Hybrid Theory kind of thing.
Yeah, it was only the first. There was Hybrid Theory, and then there's Meteora.
Okay.
And so Meteora, I think, was coming out right then.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that was the main thing. Is they were a lot of their stuff they were doing. They were teasing kind of the next album and everything. So
Okay.
yeah, it was good. It was good stuff.
What an experience.
Yeah,
I've been to a couple Warp Tours and stuff like that too. That's always a blast. It's so weird. Is Warp Tour even still a thing?
I don't even know.
I think. Well, okay, so maybe not Warp Tour, maybe like Edge Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
man.
a deal? Yeah.
Even though the Edge isn't a station in Dallas anymore, which is really weird.
Yeah, not really sure if they even do that anymore. So,
well, they do. They are keeping that. I remember that being a staple point of them closing the station.
Okay, cool.
Oh, what else we got on the list, boys? A lot of movie news this week. It feels like a lot of trailers and stuff like that.
So many trailers.
Yeah, Brandon, what was the thing that stuck out to you the most here?
Well, I mean, before we get into the trailers, we had some sad news that came out today. Actor Rutger Hauer, who's famously known as Roy Betty from Blade Runner 1982, passed away at the age of 75. He actually passed away July 19th, and the family did not release the information or the news until now, because today was the funeral. So good on them for taking a moment to kind of, just keep it to themselves and, really absorb it and kind of just, just take it in, But yeah, amazing actor. Like I said, most notably known from like Blade Runner. He was in Batman Begins. He's in so many different films. And interesting fact in Blade Runner at the end, when the character is dying on the roof and he talks about tears in the rain, Rutger Hauer actually improvised that. It wasn't even in the script. He came up with that.
Oh, sweet.
Wow.
And that iconic scene at the end is just what really, really just kind of like sends off, his acting career and that film and everything. So, yep.
Oh, yeah. Huge antagonist in that film. Little known, hobo with the shotgun.
Yeah.
Probably his role breakout later in life. That's in America though. He's been doing a lot of foreign stuff, and he never really went away. But he's a great actor. That was a lot of fun watching him. And my first taste of Blade Runner back in the day. So
back in the day, it's a classic.
It is. Huge fan.
We'll have to consider doing a live watch of that movie at some point. It's so good.
It is very good. I think. What do you guys think about the sequel?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was really well done. I don't really care if another one isn't made. I kind of feel like you don't really need to continue to franchise it. But Vinny Villeneuve, who basically directed that one, oh man, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it felt a little bit splashy for me at times, just kind of like all like a little bit overdone. I don't know. It just kind of had that feeling to it. Maybe I was just expecting a lot. I don't know. That's always a weird thing because I mean the first one is just such classic history.
There's a very much a feel and a tone to the first one, and it is not necessarily. It's very similar but different than the second one. And when everybody asks me like, "Hey man, was the second Blade Runner actually good? Like, was it something that I would enjoy?" My go-to is always to tell them that, hey, or ask them, do you like the first Blade Runner? And if they say no, then the answer is obviously no, right? Because tonally it's very similar, like pacing and everything. There's plenty borrowed from the overarching ideas and everything from the first one, but they make it their own movie. I think they do a very good job. As someone who loved the original Blade Runner, I really did enjoy the sequel, and I think that's the key, is that if you're looking at this and you've never seen the sequel, did you like the first one? And if the answer is yes, then I think it's worth some seat time.
Well,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up. I mean, because that's kind of the thing now. There's a lot of rehashings or reboots or continuations of films that took place 20, 30 years ago. But speaking of that, there was a lot that happened over the weekend, last week into this week with Comic-Con. A lot of trailers and stuff dropped. And so speaking of that, what'd you guys think of Top Gun Maverick?
I'm
going to see it, but begrudgingly, I would say. I don't like Tom Cruise. It's a real problem.
Yeah, that will definitely hamper your enjoyment of Top Gun, which
Yeah.
is basically a giant Tom Cruise vehicle. But yeah, no, I'm very in on this. I it's kind of goofy. I mean, people are picking it apart like he would have to be forced into retirement by now, that kind of thing, but
I mean,
you have to suspend some belief, right? I mean, like, or disbelief, I should
Well,
say.
but that scene where he's taken off of the aircraft carrier, I found out that's him flying that plane. No one else is in that plane.
Yeah, yeah, and like the angle really definitely gives that away. Like it's freaking sweet. Like this guy has driven race cars. He's trained in fighting. He's like done all kinds of stunts. Obviously flying planes and everything. So he's as far as an action star goes, he's definitely has his hands in everything.
he's
And
trying to find Xenu,
yeah.
Man,
Which
I don't give a fuck
how do you,
about that. If he's 100% committed to the film and it loses me to where I'm like, okay, I believe he's Pete Mitchell. I believe he's Ethan Hunt and he's doing all these things. I can kind of check that at the door, just like I can check, listening to, a couple musicians who might be, have a totally different perspective on life, but they have great music.
No, that's fair. I get it. I don't feel that way about him for some reason. I just can't put that past me.
Yeah, I think the film boycott idea, like the entertainment boycott, that kind of thing. Like if you don't agree with someone, is your prerogative, but you're going to make yourself miss out on talent if you do that. And I think that
For
as
sure.
long as you understand that trade-off and you're willing to give up on that, then that's on you. But
No,
there's
I
a lot of
said I'll
ways to
see
go.
it begrudgingly though.
Oh no, I'm not talking directly at you though. I'm
Oh
not,
yeah, sure.
just in general, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that whole trailer was high octane, man. I mean, that's the only way I can say that is it definitely had everything in a trailer that you would want from a Top Gun sequel, and of course it had the F-14 at the end of it. So the original star of Top Gun. So pretty sweet that they kind of incorporated that in there. I wonder if they're going to be flying against F-14s, if they're going to be flying F-14s. I don't know how they're going to work that into the script, but or maybe they just threw it in there just to get people excited and they'll just cut it at the last minute. But
A high likelihood of that, I would say.
yeah, we'll see
The
what
trailer
happens.
did look good though.
Yeah, it was a well orchestrated trailer, I think. So
One of the ones I'm most excited about is the Jay and Silent Bob reboot trailer.
Oh yeah.
yeah, that looks like it's exactly the movie that it needs to be.
It always is though, because it's somewhat about them in the story, but it's also the surrounding cast that they had managed to come up with every time and how they managed to weave all that together.
Right. What is the idea that Jay comes back and he finds out that he has like kind of like this illegitimate child kind of thing, and then they go drive around and then they find out that he's their original movie that they made in the first Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is getting rebooted, and so they go off to try to stop it. Is that generally the
Yeah,
idea?
that's the idea. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be so many stars in this. Obviously Ben Affleck, Matt Damon are showing up, but I even saw like bits and pieces. I mean, you kind of stop some of it because it's just flashing all these different scenes, and looked like Val Kilmer was in it, and he's taking off what looks like a Batman mask and all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, this looks great. But the illegitimate child is actually played by Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn Smith. So I thought that was
Really?
pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I think Kevin Smith is hilarious.
Oh, me too.
Oh yeah, no, he's if nothing else, he's an idea mill, right? I mean, like he's just like full of creativity. So I
always
respect him for that.
It's always fucking epic whenever he just blows up. Like he never says a word, but then blows up every now and then at him and just screams, and then they just walk off. That's it. He does that so well.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely
it's
incredible.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to that. We got some horror coming up too with
Yep.
it. So I actually I watched the original TV one, but I never was it Curry. What was his name that played the original It?
Yeah, I know who you're
The
talking about.
you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
I can't think of what his name is either.
Yeah, but yeah, he was big time at the time for character acting, and you know, I know they've done a pretty incredible job with the remake of it. So, I mean, have you guys seen it? Have you seen the original? Have you seen the new one?
Oh yeah, I've seen both.
Okay, where are we at on this? Is it a faithful adaptation of the book? Is it?
The film is more of a faithful adaptation to the book. However, there's some things that weren't really covered, but from what I've heard about this It Chapter 2 is that it's going to cover a lot of that stuff that was kind of like glossed over. But the casting alone for looking at this trailer, I mean, obviously we had that trailer come out a little while ago with the crazy old lady, which you find out is Pennywise in disguise, all this stuff. But this one is a little bit more in-depth detail, and it starts off where I can't remember the name of the character, but the African American kid grows up and he never left, so he's able to remember everything. And the story goes that if you leave, if you leave Derry, you forget everything. You forget Pennywise. You forget all this stuff, and so they ended up coming back. And I'm not sure exactly if they're gonna tie it to the book or have their own sort of interpretation, but the casting alone looks pretty amazing compared to like what the child actors look like to now. Bill Hader's in it. I mean, just a all-star cast. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Carl, it's one of those things where it just does nothing. It's like, because you're always expecting the jump out factor, right? But it's not even as much that's scary about this movie as it is. It's just the bone chilling effect where the hair stands up on the back of your neck. You're like, ugh.
Oh yeah,
It's not gory or anything like that. I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? Like it's
oh
not
yeah.
meant to be gore. It's meant to just like give a really uneasy, creepy feeling. It nails it. It really.
I saw the trailer and it was a James McAvoy who's like running through a fun house and everything. He starts banging on the glass, and I was like, "This is like the most Stephen King shit." Like it looked awesome. I mean, like it makes me want to go back and watch the first one and go watch the second one. So it just I like and I'm not a huge like gore fest kind of guy, but the gut wrenching tension kind of thing, like the thriller aspect of everything, I'm very in on. I was as a huge fan, like John Carpenter's The Thing, and that kind of like slow burn tension that yeah, there were some jump scares, but really the whole entire time, the entire idea of the movie was that it never lit up. So it was yeah, I mean, like I definitely could see myself going to go see this. So if we get a group together, that would be solid.
Oh, we will. That's going to be a hell of a time for movies, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm excited. I was like dying to go see this. Claire wouldn't even go see it with me. I had to get my mom to go with me.
Oh yeah, I won't have anybody. I'll be there like alone in the theater crying into my popcorn. So,
It's so good though.
Yeah,
absolutely worth it. We're going to have to watch the first one before we go see the second one again.
Yeah, I would definitely enjoy that. And now I just want to go buy the thing on Blu-ray because, damn,
worth it.
I
wouldn't drag the girlfriend into it if she's not into that kind of thing.
I think I might if she makes me watch like another Harry Potter movie or something.
Okay,
like just be like, look what I found. Like
you built some credit.
Think you'll love this. Yeah, that's the thing is you have to build your credit up enough so that you can scuttle it in one very cruel joke.
Yeah, you could just bring Pennywise into the thing. That's terrifying.
Yeah, she'll love that.
So to recap, Top Gun Maverick comes out next year. Jay and Silent Bob, I think, comes out later this year, like November or something. And then It Chapter 2 comes out September 19th, I believe. Sometime in September, so that's not too far away.
Not at all. Be here before you know it. We're almost out of July, boys.
That's right. And the actor I was thinking of before was Tim Curry.
Right. Tim Curry. Also a great role in Home Alone 2. He played the asshole
The
desk guy.
the bellhop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He did a lot of character acting. Tim Curry was kind of everywhere at the time. And speaking of Tom Cruise, he was in Legend
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. He played the devil or who that character was. But he was in a lot of stuff. Clue the movie, Rocky Horror Picture Show. But yeah, it's
Who
just
was he in Clue the movie?
God, now you're gonna catch me lying. This is where
No, I remember that. I'm having a hard time remembering like what role he played.
no, I know. I'm trying to think of who that was. If that was like the
Oh God, he was in Congo too. Hell yeah.
Of course he was.
Congo was a great movie.
Didn't that have Bruce Campbell in it as well?
Yes, I believe so. I'll check on that while you guys are checking on this.
Tim,
This is bad radio.
Tim Curry played Wadsworth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yes. That is correct. Yeah, he's been in a whole lot of things. He was in Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King. That's great news.
Naturally. No, that guy is I mean, on top of his character acting, he did a lot of voice acting as well. So that does not surprise me in the least.
No,
Well,
for sure.
speaking of great actors, also during Comic-Con, Marvel did their whole shebang over in Hall H and announced the next phase. I think it's Phase 5 or Phase 4.
I think we're at phase 4 now.
Yeah, of what's to come. And so, we got a few movies on the docket. And the one that's supposed to come out, I believe I don't know if it's 4 or 5. I heard it might be the next phase, but it's Blade. And so Mahershala Ali, which great actor from True Detective and everything else he's been in, walked out on stage to make an announcement and said that he's going to be portraying Blade. The best part about this whole thing is I found out how he ended up, how that role came to be for him. And he actually campaigned and went to Kevin Feige, who is the mastermind of all this Marvel stuff. It was like, I want to play Blade, and made his case. And they were just like, you got it. Let's make it. So,
Okay.
even Wesley Snipes came out on Twitter and congratulated him. But man, amazing actor, and hopefully they do it rated R and do it justice. But I'm glad they're gonna get back to some of the edgier type of characters again.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the list of superhero movies, there was kind of a dabbling here and there back in the 90s and everything, but I think really the movie that kicked everything off was Wesley Snipes' Blade. I mean, as far as bigger budget, there wasn't a big budget, but bigger budget movies that had decent special effects. It was Steven Dorff and Wesley Snipes in the first one, and then Ron Perlman made his way into the second one, and then the third one was just like one big blockbuster blowout. So definitely ramped up over time. Enjoyed those movies as far as action goes quite a bit, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The new Marvel phase has got not just, Blade is coming out in phase 5, I think, but in phase 4, they're also putting X-Men and Fantastic Four back underneath the Disney umbrella. So we'll see what they do with those properties, because they've been kind of languishing in, development hell for a little while, especially Fantastic Four. So it will be very interesting to see what, Disney can do with those properties, and now that they're kind of back where they're supposed to be.
I actually don't hate that. I think like it is going to be kind of an adjustment type of thing, right? Like that's kind of the idea. So
yeah, I think everybody's got to make adjustments. I mean, the entire idea behind having even Deadpool back underneath the Disney umbrella. I mean, they're going to have to really flex their muscles to get the movie they want. But
right.
But yeah, I think it has the potential of being a bigger project and a better project than what we've seen in the past. It's more cohesive and more about the overarching story than it is necessarily kind of like the discombobulated timeline worth of stuff that we've had in the past. So
that's the biggest problem. Is it's supposed to be a universe that flows and it doesn't.
yeah, the Fox universe for Marvel is difficult to wrap your head around, to say the least, with all the different and Sony for that matter. Just trying to keep things in context and understand what things affect other things with the actual Disney Marvel team up, that they had, or the purchasing of Marvel really. They kept it all unified, and that's how you're able to get a 25 or 24 film run, over 10 years. So anyway, I think it's going to be a big deal, and I think that for people who are kind of out of the superhero game and really stale on it and everything, that there are some kernels to be excited about in the list of stuff that's left.
Yeah, definitely. I'm down with that for sure. It'll be interesting to see what their take on it is there, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's really what the question is what they want to do with the source material. So
right. One trailer I saw this week that I'm really kind of stoked about is The Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Brandon, what do you think about this?
Oh man, I loved it. I mean, the moment that the news broke, and I want to say we covered it in one of our very first episodes, that Tom Hanks was going to basically portray Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers. I'm like, dude, you can't get a more perfect human being to do that, whether it's a famous actor or not. I mean, Tom Hanks is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. He just doesn't have a mean bone in his body. And for him to really envelop himself into a character, he's proved it time and time again. So seeing that in this trailer, man, like hair on the back of my neck stood up. I loved it. The one thing that's interesting is that it's really showing him towards the end of his life, and maybe this is based on loosely on a true story, because I do know an investigator that did meet with him, and I know someone worked on a documentary with him as well, which that documentary did come out pretty recently. I think we all saw that one. But the actor who portrays the investigator or the journalist is Matthew Rhys, and he was on The Americans. Really, really good actor. Great guy. So I've seen him do a lot of other small roles, and he's done plays and stuff. But I've been hoping that, with the success of The Americans, that he would really sort of like breach into stardom and get these really, really big roles that can really have a greater impact. And you can kind of see in the trailer that, he meets Fred Rogers, and it ends up, kind of changing his life, and he's really there for him. So I think this is going to be a very touching movie. I don't think there's going to be a dry eye in the theater. Can't wait to see it.
Do we know when it comes out?
I'll look that up real quick. What do you think about it, Carl?
Yeah, I can't agree with everything you just said more. When I was watching the trailer, I was moved, and it's just a freaking trailer. So I can't say enough about how capable Tom Hanks is anyway, but he just seems like such a natural choice for this role that when the casting was announced, I was just like, yeah, that's it. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Right out of the gate, you knew.
Yeah, he was going to crush it. And I like the arc they're taking with it. It's almost like they've got like a redemption story kind of thing running, parallel to the waning years of Fred Rogers' life. So I don't think they can do a better setup, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, like you said, everybody's going to be crying by the time this thing is over.
Yeah. So the film comes out November 22nd, by the way.
Awesome.
Cool.
I don't really recall. I remember like the tent poles of Mr. Rogers. Like, I remember the Fantasyland and all that stuff with the trolley and all that. But like, I don't really remember like what was happening in the Fantasyland. Is this something I need to go back and like watch an episode of just to get
you
around
should
it?
really watch the documentary that came out, Won't You Be My Neighbor? That
Okay.
should have won all the fucking awards, and for whatever reason, it wasn't even nominated. That documentary, I want to say, came out sometime last year. It covers a lot of like the puppets that are there, what the puppets do and evoke, and some puppets are belittled, and so it just kind of it really showed like people that kind of go through bullying or racism or just how unfair the world is, but looking deep inside and not giving up. That's really like a big
Yeah,
theme of it.
I remember it being like inspiring messaging and stuff like that. I watched it as a kid religiously. It's been 30 years since I've seen it. So it's just been a long time since I've, really looked into like how it went. Like I said, I just remember the trolley. I remember the puppets kind of vaguely, but that's about it. The trolley always kind of went to different places around the fantasy land, and that's where it would kind of tell its story, right?
Right. Yeah. It's pretty insane that we can look back at a kid's show all these years later and we can like kind of be in awe
Yeah.
and just like the messaging and everything. And of course the movie's, very timely and people are kind of at each other's throats and everything. So I think that it's good to hopefully that is a very unifying and very, wholesome message, not unlike his show. So I think it'll be good.
That's the idea. Well, I think my favorite piece of news this week that came out is Eddie Murphy getting a stand-up special on Netflix. $70 million. What do you guys think about this?
Man, I'm a huge fan of Eddie Murphy. One of the first few stand-ups I saw, I guess when I came of age, was his and Eddie Murphy Raw. I mean, it's just a classic.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's great, and the thing is, he hasn't done stand-up in a long time, and I don't even know if that's the final number in terms of if this deal is completely finalized, but it sounds like it's about 95% there. But having a series of stand-ups and for them to do it, I mean, that's going to be a win-win, because I was a big fan of the Dave Chappelle one. He got 60 million for all those, and when he originally walked away from the Chappelle show, it was a 60 million contract he walked away from, so good for him. But yeah, Eddie Murphy, one of the funniest guys on the planet.
To your point, he hasn't done stand-up in a very long time, so it could either go really well because he's just got all this material he's worked out over time and figured out, and he's naturally incredibly hilarious, or it'll be really rusty. But I can't imagine it would be.
You can see him right now on the new season of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. It's the first episode.
Yeah, I saw that drop the other day.
Really good.
Yeah. Okay, I'll check that out, and I'll get back to you guys on the show next week. What do you think about this, Carl?
I am like you guys in the fact that I definitely have. I think my parents actually have like vinyl of him doing stand up, and they used to play that for me along with like Cosby vinyl, which obviously has got its own issue now. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, as far as Eddie Murphy goes, I mean, it's hard to beat his caliber of comedy. Him, even in like SNL and stuff like that, brought something that nobody else had, which is very difficult to do in a sketch show. So, and that's really where I got most of my experience with him, was SNL and stuff like that. So, yeah, coming back to stand up can't be the easiest thing to do. I think that's the reason that you've got places like the Laugh Factory and stuff like that to just churn out new, content and see what sticks and what doesn't. But if you haven't been doing that really, and you don't have that opportunity, uh, it I think it can be a little damaging, right? Like you could be surrounded by people that are a bunch of yes men that make you think that you're killing it, and then you go out for a $70 million deal in front of everybody at a stadium and just completely dive. So I hope that he has the presence of mind to not do that.
He's Eddie Murphy, though. He's not going to bomb.
You would think not. I think life, like everything, kind of catches up to people. So his kind of humor and his brand of humor has probably taken a different kind of edge to it at this point. Whether or not that resonates as well with people or not, I'm not really sure. That's all just hypothetical, though.
But don't you think that like the idea is to get people to watch it, and if they watch it, that's all that really matters? I mean, the intrigue is 3/4 of this.
It's actually a good point. The butts and seats model of doing business and getting enough people to at least turn it on so that you have those kinds of numbers. Yeah, I can see that. It's the follow-up performances and things like that. I mean, are they doing 70 million for one hit, or are they doing a whole series? Yeah. So you gotta. I would think that the best course of action for him is to knock it out of the park first time around, and then he can, just slow walk it, just loaf it for the rest of the time.
Which he probably won't. If he knocks it out of the park once, he'll do it 3 times.
You would hope so, especially with that caliber of talent. Like the expectation is that he will do that. I will definitely give you that.
Yeah, and they wouldn't present it any other way, I wouldn't think.
No, they have the capability of really, controlling this and making it a good product. I don't think that Netflix would let that slide. So
for sure. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up. We want to thank everyone for joining us on the live stream this evening. We want to remind everybody we will be in Colorado August 1st through the 4th. So make sure to check out the YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications. Lots of live stuff that's going to be coming while we're there. Lots of pods for the Outfielder and Sensibly Loud Radio while we're there. We're doing some fun stuff. We want to invite everyone to come out if you're in the Denver area. Feel free to come out to the ballpark on Saturday night. We're going to be out there, out in the rock pile section, and we'll be walking around, talking to people, doing some wireless type stuff, talking with different fans, and it's going to be Star Wars night, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So please come out, have some beers with us. We want you to contribute to the Cup Snake, and we want to meet everybody and talk to the Outfielder fans and the Sensibly Loud fans. So make sure to check that out. We want to remind everyone to check us out on social media. That is at Sensibly Loud on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram. And we will remind everyone also to give us a call, leave us a message. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what you guys have to say. That number is 972-885-9361. And we'll see you guys next week for another edition of Sensibly Loud Radio.